LOL.
How about now? Maybe now?
Maybe now?
Remind me of that commercial. What about now?
How about now?
Yeah,
about now?
no. It's Can You Hear Me Now?
Oh,
Verizon
that's right.
back in the day.
Well, in
Hello.
the chat, let us know if you guys can hear us.
Can
now.
you hear us? You know, this is how conspiracy started, right? Because that's been happening a lot to Royal Sussex as well.
Oh, yeah? Oh,
Oh,
what is this? We got all kinds of stuff happening now.
Church Nelly says she can hear now. We get a thumbs up from Sylvia Fielder. Hello, Joyce Anderson. Hello, Elsie Register. Thank you for letting us know. Thank you, Joyce Anderson. And Lola Love. Everyone, thank you for letting us know. What's a Sunday morning without a little technical issue?
no, and I'm saying is that, this is how conspiracy started because, Royal Sussex, Baron's been having a lot of issues of late
Oh,
with
really?
his
Yeah.
mic, and he has probably one of the best mic, as they say. So there you go.
While we're on the subject of letting us know about audio, we will, as always, try to be loud and audible.
And
But
have
if
the
there
mic
is- if it
close
is,
to our
yes.
mouth, actually.
If it is quiet, let us know.
Okay, so let's get the show started because we have a really packed full show for all of you guys. And we should start with Church and Nelly report.
Well, just to tell everyone what you said while they couldn't hear us. It was...
what did I say?
It was remarking on the Aussie trip, saying hello to all of our Aussie friends.
Oh,
and where
my
do we
goodness.
go from here? So
Yes,
maybe
where do we
that's
go
the-
from here?
yeah.
Because what we saw, we just don't like it. It's really bad. And this is, for me, I normally don't really want to say too much about the royal family because really, I'm here for Meghan and Harry, and that's pretty much it. Whatever's going on down there, that's on them. But since they represent, the Commonwealth, where we, all of us here, have tons of family, specifically you, Charles. And so what we just witnessed, I don't have words for it. And it is bad. This is emergency. They need to figure out what are they going to do moving forward because it is really bad.
It's a hot mess.
I don't think it could get worse, but it got worse. And you know what? They have that woman to, now there is somebody to be blamed for. Blame that woman because the way she presented herself, in my opinion, that was so not queen-like. That's all I'll say. But
Yeah.
let's move on to Church and Nelly report, please, because we're going to get into it.
Yes. As a matter of fact, we'll actually pick up that same sentiment a little bit in the Church and Nelly report, as a matter of fact. So first and foremost, hello, everybody. What's going on? Hope everybody's having a fantastic weekend so far. So for the report, Spare, Harry's wonderful book that he put out, is now on paperback. So
That's
yay,
right.
that's fantastic.
Hello.
In the U.S. and the U.K. specifically starting, and actually that's where it's kind of launching for the paperback. So if you haven't picked it up yet, go get it in paperback.
Please go
Yeah, sure.
pick it up because
It should-
I will.
Have another one to go alongside the
Oh.
hardcover?
Why not? Why not? Why not? No, we got to support because I understand the mission. I understand what Harry is doing. And trust me, every penny is going to count. He's going to need every penny because we have two incredible children that we must protect at all costs. So, yes, I will support anything they put out. I don't care whether I like it or not because it is about the children's. And I get that.
It is about the
It
children.
is. It is. I want them to be safe.
Speaking of
I
children.
want them to be
No.
safe.
Speaking of children, Church Nelly said that she's going to actually, she said, I'm going to quote her here.
Yeah.
Thank goodness Halloween isn't on Sunday this year. I plan on stealing lots of Halloween candy. And then she followed that up and said that, yes, I rob little kids candy.
Oh my God, Church and Nelly,
there
you
you go.
have no idea what they have in store for you. So, in a very short time, we going. Well, not we. The guys are going to debut.
Anyway, we got a little something cooking up for you.
They find somehow they believe they had fun in an interview that you made.
Long lost interview of
Yes.
Church Nelly?
Last interview of Church and Nelly, and so they're gonna play that interview of Church and Nelly
A little later. A little
bit
later in the
so
show.
Stay
So
tuned,
just,
guys, because it's gonna get spicy.
It's true. It's true.
So, all right, go
Yes.
ahead.
So back to the report. So as we mentioned, spares on paperback as well for Harry, and congratulations to him. He was actually listed at number 25 in Harper's Bazaar 50 Hottest Men of All Time. So there you go. So if you like Harry, you're in good company.
I think Harry certainly, not only the man is good looking, but what I like about him is that, you know, he is a star. When he wants to turn it on, even when he doesn't even try, the man have great posture. He has amazing attitude. He knows how to carry himself. I mean, what can I say? I think he's the epitome of, you know, at least what I would like my man to look like. But he's incredible. I think he's...
He has charisma, is what
he
you
has
mean.
charisma, and he's a lot more than just looks. And I think that was the point about the why they pick him up.
Yep.
And frustratingly for his brother, he has hair.
That is also true.
And for me, Williams, I mean, you know, he used to be, his look wasn't really too bad, but I don't know what happened in the last couple of years. You know, I don't know if he's
slowly turning more and more into Charles, is basically what's happening.
It's not even that. I truly believe there's
it's
something
really that.
when people are in a place of ugliness, so to speak, in the inside, and you sort of so angry, you're so upset all the time, or you're just not coming from a place of positiveness, it does come out. I truly believe that now. I really, really believe that. And for the last couple of years, what we all come to learn about, you know, sort of this man, it's certainly, you could see why it just started showing in his face.
It's an opportunity to coin a phrase. You know how everyone always says you are what you eat? You are also, now according to Lady Sussex, you look like what you think.
Absolutely. Because, I mean, you could just look around and see all the haters of Harry and Meghan, and you can see the hate in their face. Like, it's literally, sometimes you looked at this before, you say, okay, I get it. I get why you hate her. I get the fact that you don't like her. Like, you know what I mean? It's again, I don't like to be talking about people's looks, because that's not a thing that I enjoy, because we are all God's children and we all have our different look for purpose and reason that I don't care about that. But the point is, you can see sometimes hate in people's face based on how they look.
Yes. So, this is true. So, speaking of looks, we'll go to a better, more positive, uplifting thing, which is basically how Meghan looked in her wedding dress. So you like that transition? And basically one of her friends, the designer of that wedding dress, Claire Keller.
Who used to be with the house of Givenchy.
Exactly, was Givenchy. Has now moved on to Uniqlo. And apparently it's a big deal. So obviously
I love Uniqlo. I have not yet
actually...
seen their collections. I love Uniqlo. So it was so good, refreshing to hear that, you know, she is putting a collection together for them. And I'm sure that's probably going to be sold out before I could get my hands to it. First, I need to find the money first. I need to get the money.
Step one.
That would be step
money.
one.
Yes, exactly.
And by the time I have the money, then I probably won't be able to get it.
And step two, actually make it over there.
That's right.
So the two actually still remain close, and Meghan owns several of her pieces, which she mentioned. So yeah, so that's like that's a thing. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, and obviously Uniqlo is renowned for their reasonable prices, you should go check it out.
And very cool design, you know, very...
They are. Actually, I like them quite a bit.
Modern, especially their undergarments for wintertime, during wintertime, what we call...
Winter.
How you call those?
The overcoats?
No, the thing that you wear underneath.
Oh, the undergarments?
The undergarments.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Yes. By the
and
way,
their coat
stop
too. I love
touching
their coat.
the mic.
I'm sorry.
Stop touching it. Don't touch it.
Because I keep
Don't touch it.
losing my script.
Okay.
Well, you as someone who's had extensive experience in that field, in that area, also know just how important it is to the way the
Stop
person
touching
who's
your mic.
wearing it, actually what that person makes it look like, the clothes that they wear.
Well,
And that
they say
association with Meghan, and Meghan even wearing that dress, what it did for the dress. I mean, not to knock the designer by any means, but I'm just saying.
well, there's a saying that it doesn't really matter how much money you have a bank account, you can't buy style.
It's true.
You really can't buy that because trust and believe. I've seen people with couture, and literally, I don't think they did a disservice to the designers just because that they wear it for the labels, not because they actually look right on them. And I think oh my God, La Roche, which is probably one of the best stylists of our time since oh God, the late God, what's his name again? Oh God, Andre Talley.
Mm.
Since Andre, that who a student of fashion and vintage, and he himself will tell you, you know what I mean? It's the women in the clothes, the
Yeah.
women or the men in
Yeah.
the clothes.
Yeah.
So-
Well, it's about that je ne sais quoi they bring to it.
That's right. That's right.
So, getting onto it now, this actually is going to get a little bit deeper into what we led off with, which is basically the Australian tour.
Oh my goodness. Do we
And
do
they
we
have
have to
had-
talk about it?
You've already brought it up,
Oh,
so we
dear.
have to let's just put a pin in it. We'll discuss it. There's some things
Because
that
I
have
don't
happened.
know how to talk about what I just witnessed.
Well, then let me do it.
Okay.
Then let me do it. So, as mentioned, they have had quite the royal tour. Bit of a hot mess, depending on who you ask, because there's very different reports.
Depending what televisions
Well,
or
whatever.
who's
Yeah,
reporting on
exactly.
them. Yes.
So first, apparently Charles and Camilla recreated Harry and Meghan's famous photo shoot on the stairs of the Sydney Opera House. Did not really go over that well.
Well, I would not
depending on
say
what it
if
is.
you're going to try to replicate something, you either have to be better or as good, and
Well,
that's all. That I will leave it there.
yes,
I will leave
it's
it
very
there.
difficult.
I will leave it there.
It's very difficult for those two people to match the aura of Harry and Meghan, just generally speaking, on film. They just do not capture as well on film, hands down,
But
regardless
there is
of
a
anything.
reason why that they don't capture really, really well. I mean, I will dare to say, based on a lot of, I guess, what would you call this, research that I've done on Charles, there was a time that, I find Charles has some sort of, there was a sex appeal, like they would
What?
call sexy beast.
A sexy beast.
Well, that's what he used to
Sexy
like looking at. I
beast.
could see why someone would be attracted to Charles. You know what?
When?
He was funny. Look, that's
No,
my
when?
opinion.
Answer the
That's my
question. No, I'm
opinion
just saying
here.
when.
I'm just saying back in the day.
What, no,
based
give
on
a
report,
date.
I
What are we
wasn't
talking about? Are we
around
talking
at the
like
time.
10 years ago,
But once
20
I'm
years
aware
ago,
of him,
50 years ago? Like, what are we talking
after high school.
about? After his high school?
Yes.
Okay, so just
You
what
know
he
what I
got,
mean?
just what he basically
Like-
before he get into college.
Around that time with Diana, I think there was things about him that I find.
Oh, so
there
that's
was a
actually well
certain-
after college.
Yes, whatever. Yes.
Okay.
I was-
So like you're thinking mid-30s Charles was hot.
I didn't say it was hot.
You said he was a sexy beast.
I said there was certain sexiness about him.
Uh-huh.
But now I don't know what happened.
He's just a beast now. Is what you're saying? He lost one.
Okay,
He
why
lost
did- why
one
did I
half of
even
it. I don't
mention
know. I don't know.
anything about it? Now I forgot even the point that I was going to make about that. Thank you very much for that.
Okay. So
Now everybody going to say, "Oh, you wouldn't believe ladies are sex was that." That's yes. Okay. Thank you for that.
So
Oh,
we'll get
boy.
into it. So, as Church Nelly actually pointed out, and then also as we have to kind of mention ourselves, while they were there at the Sydney Opera House, Camilla decided to remove her shoes
Oh dear Lord.
and walked up the steps. And then that's one thing, right? I mean, I get it. Like, I don't even like difficult shoes. Like, once my shoes starts, my feet start hurting, I definitely want to stop and sit down for sure. I get it. But at the end of the day, what was really annoying is the fact that we didn't hear a single word about breaking royal protocol or any moral outrage from the press, which is more than a little hypocritical because we know that if Harry or Meghan especially Meghan, had done anything remotely similar, that there would have been hell to pay. They would have been all over the place. So
for me,
that's
I
just
have
the thing.
listen. I mean, yeah, I heard even Claire, which I love. She was saying that where she understands sometimes she feel really bad for these people that sort of who's in the world stage but we create this, right? We create that so-called standard what a woman or even a queen or princess or all these people, those famous people, what they're supposed to look like and how they should show themselves into the world, right? And so, and the royal themselves, they create a situation where they call it protocols, right? So to me, you would have never seen Queen Elizabeth do something like that.
That is exactly true.
In the world stage, as you representing the world, and most of all, the fact that she was walking in front of Charles, I thought it was a no, you can do. So what happened? Who's the monarch here? Is it Charles or is it that woman?
Yes, I agree.
I want to know because at this point right now, I'm doubting that Charles is the monarch because based on this woman behavior, we need to start questioning. Now I have interest in her. The way she represents herself, because I don't really talk much about that woman that we're supposed to call queen. So since she wants me to address her as a queen, so now we're going to talk queen things. What does queen do, supposed to do, should be, should look like, should behave like? Because that's what they did to Meghan, right? That's why they talk. Like she didn't know, how we do it. We people, aristocrats people. So now I want to know, how did she get that title? Why she have this title? And what does that title mean to her? Because I didn't see it in the whole, I didn't see it.
Exactly.
Well, just as a sort of a thought on this, and maybe it's for another broader conversation about it, but we spoke about it probably a while back, talking about specifically of critique of Meghan and when they were calling her out supposedly for breaking protocol. But I think it was actually you, Lady Sussex, sharing, because you've had that experience as well, in terms of knowing how when your outfit needs to be so coordinated, when you know exactly what you're wearing, there's a reason behind it, every single
That's
thing.
right.
And if that is the case, right, we're accepting that every single a bit of attire, every single thing that you change, what you do with your clothes, all of that is carefully coordinated. What does it say about the fact that she is doing something that is so blatantly breaking protocol? To your point, is it that, she's views herself as a monarch and she can do whatever she wants kind of thing? Or is it to some of the things that you've been asking of, like, what is her role? What is she thinking about in terms of the monarchy's future overall?
Because let me explain this the best way I know how to. Clothes for regular people who spend a lot of money, buying expensive clothes is an investment. It's how you present yourself. This is what people first see, right? And so when you're in the world stage like this woman is, or how Harry, how Meghan, how you show yourself tells a lot. There's signals that come from on what you wear. There is a way that you let the people know that, I'm with you, I support you. There is a message that goes beyond just the piece of the garment that these people they wear. Do you understand what I mean? There's a reason why you will see even here in the state that usually most of the president, hopefully it will be, our ladies, sort of like they wear blue representing Democrat, right? You have the Republican, they wear red to represent, their party. So like every piece of garment when you're in the world stage represents something. It tells a story. Many people probably don't get it. But if you are supposedly a queen now and you show up and you remove your shoes, for me, what kind of signal do you send to these people?
No, absolutely. It's
You
very
know what
true
I mean?
in terms of that signal.
I mean, it's one thing that, if you was at the beach, like Harry and Meghan was at the beach, I get it. That's expected. And even there, they had criticizing her. They criticized her for moving, for walking, in the sand, I mean,
the whole thing is just ridiculous. Anyway.
Come on,
But
please.
let's get back on track here, because otherwise it's already gonna be a juicy show. So let's get on with let's keep it on track.
Yeah,
So, but
because I
speaking
noticed
of protocol,
George just removed his pants and leave his short now.
what?
Yeah, he's.
It's
What is happening? What's
No,
what's
he
bringing all that up?
He has his short.
The
on.
behind the curtain stuff.
It's hot.
Yes. So speaking of protocol, as we just talked about,
Yes.
so Camilla just did and is what you were kind of mentioning earlier about her just doing her own thing. But she did just a terrible job at being a royal just generally during the whole tour. And it's no wonder that there's actually a lot of people who don't really like her. So as evidenced by the size of the crowds throughout the tour, which I think when you start looking in comparison between what actually happened when Charles was with Diana and then also with Meghan was with Harry, these are distinctly much smaller crowds. So I think a lot of that may be able to be traced back to just basically the smaller amount of popularity that they have. And the only person in that equation who has changed would be her. So just throwing that out there. But also, I think some of the reasons we can also look back at that in terms of, okay, well, why actually is their popularity starting to wane? I think you can look at what actually she was going on. It's like she was very dismissive of the crowds as she was walking throughout the trip. She barely could look at anybody in the eye at all. Barely even actually even acknowledge their presence, even though they're actually the people who actually came to see her specifically. So they're actually her supporters. So I can't imagine why she wouldn't be more gracious about it. And then also I thought, which was really disrespectful, is the fact that she actually laughed during the protest of that indigenous senator.
Well, actually, we got some of the
Senator
clips.
Throb. So
If you want to play some of the
I
short clips.
think we should play some of the clips
Let's do it.
because it's.
And Church Nelly said that she basically didn't even look them in the eyes and just gave them high fives, which is true. Like, a high five would actually
It is insane. When you're looking at it, it's so upsetting. Because I mean, I didn't expect that they were going to have the crowd that Diana had or Harry and Meghan have, because these are different people who had different things about them, and people actually really love them, and they didn't love them because of the fact that they're royals. They love them because what they represent. You see, people looked at Meghan, they see themselves, and they had hope. They looked at Diana, even though she herself from the kind of family that but she was something different. Especially, she was the woman that, you can see that she was a young woman, but she really actually very genuine, how she loved people, and people actually really do care about her. But this woman that we don't know, and I'm still trying to figure out who is this woman, who is behind this woman, and to show up, probably what we'll consider in her first tour there as the monarch wife, queen, so to speak. I wanted more, because it wasn't so much about what size of crowd they have. I was expecting she was going to treat the people in a way that visually that make you maybe have some respect for her. She was going to conduct herself in a way that dignified, that the title that she have based on who Queen Elizabeth was. Queen Elizabeth was so you can't ever know what she's thinking. I think in her later years you can see her smiling, you can actually see that she's enjoying things, but for most part that this is a woman that who just she was a queen.
Exactly. She was the textbook definition of what people just generally would consider like a
and
queen.
You can go around the world and see the same. You can even see that with the first ladies, many of the first ladies. But this woman, so far since become a queen, every tour we have something that just so not queen-like. So it's almost like now it is fair to say, I don't think this woman care at all. I think she wanted that title. She wanted that man. She wanted to wear those tiaras. She wanted to sort of, maybe it was to get back to everyone that, who tell her that she couldn't, that she will never be. I feel like it was her revenge, and that's all there is to it. That kind of like, I'm gonna get your boy, I'm gonna get your favorite, prince and everything, and then looked at me. I feel like this is what this woman have done, because right now, the more I'm learning, or little bit that I learned about this woman, whether it's from Harriet's book to how she's portraying herself, it just making a mockery, in my opinion, of the British people and the great monarch that come before her.
There you go.
And she did get a little bit of karma, though. You want to play that game?
Absolutely, because what we had all saw, during, the French visit, when she was supposed, Macron's wife tried to give her hand, and she kind of like ignore, somewhat push it away, what it seems like that she has done, and it get back to her. I mean, look what happened, and you could see how quickly she moved her face, a little bit upset, so to speak. It just, oh my God, it is insane. It is insane.
I don't know who that is.
I don't know what to take. What was the takeaway of the trip to begin with? Because normally, when you have these,
well, I think that's a very interesting. I think that's a very interesting question, because it's what I kind of mentioned at the top. It all depends on who you talk to, because the press coverage was wildly varied, and it basically broke down in two kind of ways. One is that if you're coming from the UK press, they say it was an amazingly successful trip. Everyone was happy about them coming. That's just what the UK said. And they were, they had very carefully edited clips and pictures to showcase the fact that everyone was very happy. However, if you look anywhere else, it was a very, very different story. And then I also think that it does not bode well for the future of the Commonwealth just generally, because there were quite a bit of protest. There were quite a bit of angst about them being there and displeasure. And then I think that the way they presented themselves also did not help the situation whatsoever either.
But what I will say, though, yes, depending on who you was following, if you're following the UK, if you're following the US, you see the report, and it's not what it seems like. It's almost like rewriting history, which is the words we've been doing the past 2 weeks. But what I will say, though, regardless, what report they choose to show, what they did do, they did speak on the fact is that senator, voiced her opinions unto Charles. And that, for me, it doesn't really matter, how much they tell you or why she should never have done that, because they have discussed it. I think that's going to be a last impressions in many of the British.
Yeah, I think if anything that's going to
regardless,
stick, that's going to be the thing that sticks and that actually sums up what the sum total of this trip was about.
Because a curiosity. The moment that they say that, everybody wants to go into the internet and see it. And so what's going to happen is they're going to end up finding out a lot more than that they'll tend to tell their people in England. So that probably was a mistake in the British media's part, to be honest.
Yeah. So that basically is what's going on. That's all the news that's fit to print for Church and Nelly. But George says that he's going to drop something for us.
Well, the one thing I know you wanted to mention is in terms of even that headline.
The headline, which I grabbed on from Royal Sussex, because really this is where I got my news. And I depend on him for a lot, especially with, well, anyway. Yeah.
Me to read it?
Just read it.
It said royal tours may soon be over for good due to anger over slavery, Harry and Meghan, which is quite a headline. It says there have been protests and calls for reparations over slavery during the King's visit to Australia and Samoa, along with disquiet over the situation for the Sussexes. The future of international royal tours looks shaky.
Yeah, because you went against of a woman that literally, for if not all, most of the Commonwealth can look and see themselves in. And there is no way, if you could not make it work with her, you're going to try to convince us you care about us. When the person that you could have to come around and represent you guys, where we can talk to, we can see ourselves into, and you did that. So there's no way anyone can ever really truly believe them, that they care when you did that and still didn't make it work. You did not because again, there is so many chances that these people have had to make it right. You know what I mean? I mean, even as for when Charles walked, Meghan, that was such a sweet gesture. What felt very caring, very loving to me. That could have been something. Could you imagine if they had that relationship enough, because Charles do know better. And that's what's so disappointed about him. If he could have come out and actually, if nothing, protect Meghan. Because many of us believe that they had this relationship. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that Charles was quite impressed by her based on what's reported.
Well, yeah. I mean,
so
and you could
was like, an opportunity lost.
It's a huge opportunity. A huge opportunity that was just basically completely wasted. And it's a shame. It really is a shame, because I think it really could have been a complete change and reset of what the monarchy was just all about. I think it really could have been repositioned them and done so much. And the problem is, it would not have taken away anything from them. It's not only would it make them look good, there would have been a lot more interest, because you got to evolve. Do you understand what I mean? I don't think that we move away who is first, who's second, who's third. No, not at all. I just think that, there is time you have to give people what the people want. Give them somebody that to represent. I mean, just like, for example, the president here, right? You have all these people who talk on behalf of the president, that represent, the cabinet, and all these people that go out there and do the work. But we all know, God forbid something happen, who's responsible. So I don't understand why that they could not have Meghan and Harry to really build them up. Well, I think I think that's the whole thing, though. That's the point of the last 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks about what they have to do. You're trying to breed logic into a situation that basically we've already discussed why they couldn't actually have it there in the first place, is because there's another larger agenda that was at play. And we'll get to that even more so later on in the show. But before we get there, and actually before we kind of go down, that is a fairly sizable rabbit hole, let's just go over to Connie Balmer update.
Okay, I'm not going to.
Connie Balmer!
No. It's close, but yeah,
no, not at all.
Yeah. Wow. That was
total lack
that
of
was
support.
cold.
No, that was cold.
All right. So, before we actually do Connie Balmer, I think we actually wait. We have to go back and actually, because it's Church Nelly, and that's right. There is actually
the interview.
There is. Yes.
Are you guys ready?
Yes. So this is Church Nelly's.
There need to be a countdown.
Well, we have to just set up the premise, right? So we went into the internet, deep into the bowels, and we actually found a lost interview Church Nelly did a little while ago, and we have to share it with you all today, because I think it just sets up perfectly well everything we know and love.
Yes,
and then also why she needs so many more wigs.
Okay. Exactly. It's for to kick off the wig fundraising campaign specifically, and also because we know of the value of laughter as medicine.
Yes, it's also true.
That's right, true. Which is everything Church Nelly is. So, without further ado,
and for those who are just listening and not watching, we encourage you to also watch,
because you have to see
this amazing Church Nelly interview.
It is an incredible interview.
It is.
Okay,
now better work.
Here we go.
Exactly, after all that setup.
He's a good father. He is, and he has the best intentions for you. His
Yeah.
plans are to prosper you,
Yeah.
bring you to an expected end, but your life does not. Oh my God. Oh my God. Bruh. We gonna keep this? I can't even reach it, bro. This is beyond embarrassing. Wait a minute. Bruh.
Don't be laughing, Ladarian.
Life be like, wait a minute. I'm weak. Everybody who does mine is so embarrassed. Oh, golly, that was...
Yeah, that was.
What an interview, huh?
Yeah, it was action packed.
Now I get
and
it.
the host could not even collect himself after all that. So he still belly laughs.
Oh my God.
But well warranted, because that is hilarious.
So what everybody's saying.
And just also to give proper credit, that was a comedian, Whitney Davis, I believe. It was in the at the bottom of the screen. But
Did everybody was able to see it?
everyone,
Yep.
everyone saw it, and it's
Although-
funny because she was literally in the middle of such a deep and profound remark about like God. She was like, he's such a good father, and then sent something down.
Oh my God. It reminds me of what Nelly talk about, the losing things.
Yeah. So that's just for you, because that's just we got to keep it real, keep it
to
light.
put it together for you for a while
Yeah.
now, Church and Nelly.
So we were just looking for the right time.
What did she say?
So no, she's just laughing. She's like, the same thing happened to me during church when she's shouting. So keep it real. That's all we're saying.
Oh my God.
So now with the Connie Balmer community update, which I think Connie is still probably has not showed up just yet, but she's always running around, so she'll catch it up.
Yes.
So for the prayers, so first of all, we ask for continued prayer for all of our Sussex family, but especially these three. So Black Queen and her daughter, we know there's something very special. She actually, I'm not sure she hasn't showed up yet, but she was actually out visiting her even last week, so she still may be there, actually. Dorothy Ross.
Yes, she was actually on Sussex, Royal last night. I
Royal
think.
Sussex?
Mm-hmm. Sussex Royal Sussex.
Royal Sussex.
Yes.
Yes.
Why you guys are making me feel like I'm saying everything wrong today? Yes. She said hello.
She did. Okay.
Mhm.
Church Nelly, of course, and then Chef Sandy Love. That's basically
right.
definitely what we want to call out. And then also Meghan and Harry's safety. Like we cannot ever forget that. That's super.
I
super
also
important.
think that, we need to, one of the things that we don't do often enough or should be doing is to pray for their staff, Harry and Meghan staff, the people that was around them, and make sure that, they continue protecting them and, keeping them, safe as well too, and pray for them.
That's right. That's right.
Mhm. Their royalty, so to speak.
Yes. Their
Loyalty.
Their loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Both.
Okay, so that's basically what we have for that. Now, there's also the news and support item within Connie Balmer. So something we always forget, and our wonderful colleagues over here always help us out with. But just please, like and subscribe for the channel, and then also for our own George and Charles here, our own show. So I'll let you get into it.
Yeah, and if you are not tired of hearing us, or actually maybe even if you enjoy hearing Charles and I talk, as we always have been saying for the last few episodes, but we'll say it again because we really do deeply appreciate your support. We'd love it if you could head over to Planet First Action. Just put the page names and those things all on the screen, just so they're easy as a reference. On YouTube, it's at Planet First Action. On Instagram, it is also at Planet First Action for those who use Instagram, as well as on X/Twitter, it is Planet First Act. We're doing a lot of work, and there's a lot of really, really exciting content that is coming down as we head into the holidays and the end of the year. Some amazing leaders from across the world who are working to make the world a better place, sitting down, interviewing them, highlighting their work. and it's really advancing that mission of how do we create a better future for all of us.
The road to interview Prince Harry. And I'm not even going to put Meghan on that. That would be like a massive bonus, but at least based on the work that you guys do. So
There is
yeah,
alignment.
it will be really nice because, it's very similar work.
Yeah, there is alignment.
That's right. So it's up on the screen. And again, could not thank you, all of you who have already started subscribing and commenting and sharing and liking. It really means the world to us over here. So thank you so much. And for those who haven't had a chance to sign up yet or share those things along, we really would appreciate it if you do.
There you go.
That's right, because I believe you guys have a special coming up for Thanksgiving, and then you have another one for Christmas, and both of them are just like game changers, so to speak.
They
That's
will
right.
be. They will be great. So yeah. So thank you so much for that, and then also welcome, Classy.
So
we
where
just saw
should
that
they
you
go
popped up.
to follow you guys on Instagram?
So it's up on the screen. And
It's all on the screen.
It is at Planet First Action on YouTube and on Instagram. It's the same handle. And then for Twitter /X, it is at Planet First Act.
Yeah, so if you guys could take a minute while you're in the chat, if you have not signed, and just give them some love, it will be great. It will be nice.
Yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to call Twitter X. I don't think I'm ever going to do it.
Probably not.
Yeah, it's just Twitter.
Yeah,
The
go
whole
ahead.
X thing is ridiculous.
Okay.
Anyway, so knowing, and this is kind of the support, this is the community section of our show, and knowing that a lot of the Sussex squad is facing health challenges, particularly around cancer, we did want to actually share some good news. So with that, we'll actually have some nice imagery here on the screen, but what I'll also share with you is actually an excerpt from a article in the magazine Nature, which is from May 29th of this year, which is amazing. And Nature is probably one of those most preeminent science journals that's out there. So this is beyond a reputable source. It's one of the very best sources.
But still, make sure you go, no matter what, go and after Charles read this, go and do your own research. And it is good news, but, do more research. Okay? So
Sure.
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not going to get in trouble. So this is just basically, I'm just reading their article. So, and innovative cancer therapies offer new hope is the title of this particular article. And the arsenal of weapons used to treat these insidious diseases is rapidly expanding, so they say. So, and this is what it says. So, laboratories across the world are delivering a steady stream of encouraging and in some cases astonishing results. Several of these treatments approach immune system in innovative ways. Many after years of trying to develop therapeutic cancer vaccines, some researchers are starting to find success in in situ vaccines which generate an immune response to a person's tumor inside their body. Others are weaponizing natural killer cells which attack tumors and produce fewer side effects than T-cell therapies. Other immune components, which are called antibodies, are proving very useful as guided missiles that carry conventional chemotherapy drugs directly targeting cancer cells. So, and again, this is just straight from the article. By combining these medical treatments and tasks, these theragnostics, they're called, a combination of therapies as well as diagnostics is actually scoring an impressive result in terms of being able to eliminate, in some cases, very much treat these diseases in a much more effective manner than in the past. The idea is to actually send these radioactive particles into the body and to identify and locate the cancer very, very specifically, and then follow up with a different class of emitters that can actually deal with these cancer cells in a very effective and quick death to the cancer cells. So the researchers are also exploring ways of using AI, artificial intelligence, to actually help out and map out which therapy is actually best for the particular individuals. And these new treatments actually are emerging from labs so rapidly, they're actually thinking of even revising the clinical trial system because they're going to be so specific to the individual.
I mean, it's, oh my goodness. It's something that we know we want yesterday, tomorrow. Like, if there was ever any cause to really actually really support that funding for this to happen tomorrow, so people like, Dorothy Ross to, my best friend's father, and many others that who is currently or just not yet even have a diagnosis, just this week probably going to have a diagnosis tomorrow. Just think about how many people that's going to the doctor tomorrow and just going to hear that bad news. So for me is that yes, there's hope here. I think this is something we want tomorrow. We want to write to our president or congressman, the people with a lot of money, and tell them, hey, put more money in those research because we want that vaccine. We want it tomorrow because it's cancer does not know your zip code, don't care about your zip code, whether you black, white, or Asian or anything. It just, cancer affects us all. And if we can get rid of it, or at least being able to treat it like we treat everything else, polio and God knows what else, that we have been able to just, it's not so much a thing no more. If cancer can be in that lane as well, oh please, let's go for it. So that is very good news. And I know this is not just Nature magazine; it's many papers
I'm just
that are doing.
correct. There's lots of different kinds of articles. But this was a
So
good.
that's
This
how
is
we-
a, this
it's
is a
a
great.
real thing.
This was a great way to just a
It's
synopsis.
a real thing, yeah.
A synopsis to kind of encapsulate kind of the raft of treatments that are coming out. But there's quite a few.
That's right.
And we've listed some of them on
We want it now.
on the screen.
We want it now.
So for the next thing, as more of a public service announcement, is about voting and about the elections.
Oh.
And elections have consequences. 2024 is probably one of the most extraordinary year for global elections. More than half of the world's population is voting this year in presidential or national elections. They include actually the 3 largest democratic countries on earth: India, Indonesia, as well as the U.S. So we know that this is a big deal. So just generally across the board.
And we can't sit. We cannot
That's
leave
right.
it to somebody else. We can say, no, because
It's
then you don't have the right to complain.
That's right. So here in the U.S. is one of, if not the most important election in our nation's history. And it's less than 10 days away. So it is important that everyone get off the couch.
You heard
what you gotta
Connie.
do.
It doesn't matter where you are around the world.
Doesn't matter where you are.
If you're a citizen, you're an American citizen, it does not matter where you are in the world. You can vote. Send out your absentee ballot. I think that's how they call it. And if you, just vote early if you can, please, so you don't have to deal with so many issues, afterwards. So if you can do it early. Talk to a friend, talk to your family members, make sure, and all the 18-year-olds now, if you have any 18-year-olds in your family, make sure that they are registered, make sure that they vote. It's vote or it's your life.
That's it.
Your life depend on it, our future depend on it. So please vote. Doesn't matter who you choose to vote for, but vote.
There you go.
It is important.
Exactly. So, and early voting, actually, we can speak for ourselves, but basically it's starting tomorrow. So early voting is a thing. You go out there, you can do it in person, and that's actually after the absentee ballot that Lady Sussex already mentioned. So the polls are open. Let's go, folks. So that's basically wraps up what's going on in the Connie Balmer community update.
Here we go.
It's a juicy service.
Oh my God. I don't know if I can deal with the 2-3 hours.
Well, with that, we'll move right along into our thank yous, and we do have some tremendous thank yous to extend. As we mentioned already, to everyone who's been supporting us on the other channel and initiative that we've launched, Planet for Section, thank you again. But for everyone in the Sussex Squad that has been joining us for these services, thank you so much for watching, for listening, for reminding other people to give a thumbs up or a like or share when we forget to do that. And on that note, please like, share, subscribe. But thank you really for all of the incredible support. It is truly, truly remarkable. We cannot tell you how much it means to us, especially for those who have joined on as members. And just to give a quick shout out to our members, we have, from the beginning, Patrick Coe Marcel, Marvel Walker, R.R. Carter, V. Brame, Antonio, TC416, April Showers, Church Nelly, Black Queen, Kay Castillo, Eve Balmer, Sylvia Fielder, Connie Balmer, V. Thomas, Lady Rose, Bryce Thompson, Royal, Sussex himself, and Lydia Washington. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
And also, thank you for everyone who does support, maybe not with a membership, but with the super stickers and super chats. It really does make a difference as well, especially everyone from the last service last week. That was Connie and Julie, V. Brame, Church Nelly, and then Connie and Julie a second time, as well as Gracie If and Wilby, who came in and supported, not during the live stream, but afterwards. It really, thank you so much.
Sweet. That's very sweet.
Yep.
Hopefully, we'll be able to afford to get a better mic. Maybe a better instrument.
You keep on trashing our mics.
I don't know if is it the instrument or is it a machine? What do we going to need to change? Something.
What you think we up here with a tuba?
I don't know what do you call it. But anyway, should we get the service started? What do we do?
Almost. We're
okay.
in the thank you
I'm
section,
getting nervous.
We have our comments as well. And so there was one comment I know you had seen that you wanted to share some thoughts on as well, which not to say who had said it during the last service. Actually, it was in the live chat. But someone added this message that said, "Can you guys please?" This is what the chat said. Said, "Can you guys please stop this evil prophecy in Jesus' matchless name? And I cancel and rebuke this prophecy by the blood of Jesus Christ. Do not empower the enemy for crying out loud." That was in reference to us talking about the dangers that Meghan faced on her life.
Well, thank you for your comment. Thank you so much. I think it's necessary, and I truly, understand where you're coming from. But that's something that I think we need to start moving away of thinking that we gotta leave it all to God, and somehow that if we talk about what the enemy is constantly at us, try to do to us, then it will actually happen. The truth of the matter is, when you have bullying, you have people that are doing things to you, you can't ignore it. You cannot call it what you're supposed to call it, right? You have to actually, spell it out and tell it what it is, because that's how other people will be able to identify it and see what happened. Because we saw it right now happening to our, vice president, that hopefully will, I hope, become president. So what I'm saying is that, what happening to, Meghan, it's not just Meghan it's happening to. It's to, if not all, most majority of Black women or biracial women, whatever, sort of, if you're a woman of color, it have happened to you in some point or another. And so, as I remember, Tina and Michelle used to say, this is bigger than Meghan. This is for all women that who have endured, this kind of, sort of things on their lives. And it doesn't matter whether, people who pray God or have faith in God, things happen to them too. And very often the question we ask, God, why did you live that? Why is that happened to me? Why me?
Yeah, it brings to mind this a story that probably everyone who's listening in probably might be familiar with this. It is the story of actually someone that's even more relevant these days with the changing weather patterns, unfortunately. But it was someone who's living in a town that
story.
A major hurricane warning came through, and evacuation orders were issued. Everyone was told to leave. Everyone really, for the most part, left, except for this one individual. He said, "No, I'm going to trust the Lord is going to keep me safe. I'm going to stay here in my house. I have God on my side, and so I will be protected. I believe I have strong faith, and so I'm set. I'm good. I don't need to follow these earthly authorities." And so he stayed when everyone else left, and the floods came with the hurricane and started to fill up his house. And so he climbed up to the second floor, at which point he's still feeling confident.
There's a send a boat.
Yeah, he's still feeling confident, but they send a boat to come and get him, to rescue him along with anyone else who happened to ignore the evacuation order. And when they called to him from the boat, he said, No, I'm good. I'll stay here. I've got God on my side. I've got the Lord on my side. I am protected. He will protect me. I don't need your help. I'm good. And so the boat left, and the water kept rising, and he had soon to get up onto the roof to be able to continue to breathe. And so there he is sitting on the roof, and all of a sudden he hears a helicopter coming to him. And the helicopter throws down a rope and says, climb on, we can save you, just come up. And he shouts up to them, no, I'm good, the Lord's on my side, I am protected, he will protect me, I'll be safe. And unfortunately the water kept rising, and he did not survive. He passed away. And he gets up to heaven, he walks over, he gets through the gates, and he says to God, well, I believed in you, why did I die, why didn't you save me? And then God turns to him and says, well, I sent you a warning, a boat, and a helicopter. What more did you want?
I mean, it's like, really, I think we are in a place where we have to call racism. We have to call, and we got to follow what Harry says. What we saying, what we have seen. There's a reason why every time Harry get a chance to actually really speak about this situation, and he makes sure that he put these words out. There's a reason why, and that's who I'm following. Do you understand what I mean? Because, when you think of Jesus himself, he will call people out for what they do. Please, Charles, you can read Luke 22, and look, God, what is the 47 and 48 for me?
Sure. So there's two things. So it's Luke chapter 22, and then there's verses 33 through 34, as well as 47 through 48.
Right.
So 33 through 34 is talking about Peter.
Correct, yes.
And what Peter said is basically, is that Peter said to Jesus, Lord, I'm ready to go to jail with you. I'm ready to even die with you. But Jesus said, Peter, before the rooster crows tomorrow morning, you will say you don't know me at least three. Well, you want to say you don't know me 3 times.
That's right.
So
call him out.
Called him out straight up. And then likewise, when you start thinking about Judas, here's what verses 47 says. While Jesus was speaking, a crowd came up and was led by Judas, one of the 12 apostles, and he came over and kissed Jesus. And Jesus said to him, Judas, you are using the kiss of friendship to hand me over to the Son of Man, to my enemies.
Amen. So I don't think there's anything. I think we are now in a place, yes, we have our faith. Yes, we believe in the great Lord. Yes, we are praying and we're going to pray, but we have to call things. Sometimes you have to meet the enemy where they are. You have to speak their language. We are all fighting. We bring very different type of, things to fight the enemies. And so it is bigger than Meghan. It really is. It's what we are now witnesses that they are doing to our, vice president. And who knows, that could be your daughter, that could be your granddaughter, it could be you. So we got to call it out every time. And I am not going to stop, especially when I'm following what Harry himself, every chance that he gets, he makes sure that he lets everyone knows the attempt on his wife.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. Just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean it's bad.
It's bad.
It actually really helps to put it out in the spotlight, and to just close it out with even Karen Warner, one of our wonderful co-hosts, who said it perfectly. The way to healing is to speak out and call it what it is. You have to face the enemy and be strong. Say the name. Call out cancer. Call out racism, bullying. Call out the name access, and face it head on.
Head on. Amen. Let's move on. Thank you. But thank you for your comment. But I did understand where you're coming from.
And with that, we will get the service started, but before doing that, we'll remind everyone that we are not experts, as is abundantly obvious, nor do we claim to be. And with all the things that we share, we always encourage everyone to also do their own research, to fact check, to get information from multiple sources. Even if Barron is amazing, get multiple sources. Lady Sussex, looking at you. And even though this is a church service, we're not here to convert anyone. So we're here to ask questions, to highlight the people we believe to be doing amazing work. Working to make the world a better place. People like Harry and Meghan and the Sussex Squad, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Yeah, well, the thing is about when it comes to Royal Sussex and many of the other, it's almost like sometimes you feel like there's something in the air where I will just starting watch. I'm thinking of something, and then all of a sudden I'm watching Royal Sussex, and he's saying what is in my mind. Or if I'm like trying to sort of, thinking about the show, what I'm gonna do, and it's like, should I do it now? What, you know what I mean? It's like seems like there is a connection. I just don't know.
Same wavelength.
You're vibing, huh?
Yes, we are in the same wavelength, and sometimes it makes it really tough to do this work because it's like doesn't feel like there's any originality when it comes to our show here because it's like everybody's thinking about the same.
That's not
it's
true.
like feeling the same.
I don't know because I think we have a different take.
Oh,
we have a very different take.
Yeah, well, you
have
see
a
our
very different
views.
take, I should say.
I think he says
people also have a hard time hearing us, so that's different too.
Oh, they have a hard time understanding me.
That is also true.
I'm probably the problem.
All right, with that, we will start the service.
When Benjamin Franklin went to think of the following, if there were so many black men take John's situation and Ellen trade,
We're going to start.
some Indian act practice for it wasn't just the first 1903 where the number of Italians who were mayor of medium height. It was the glamour historic skin trend. This gathers together the Inquisition. Lawyers forced exodus here in court. The revolution down there, the vampire, the English
we do have to
first appearance in a court. As you can see again, his post-iconoclasm fiction, nothing like the written first-hand and never adopt 1660. So too go any more than they made clear follower on the throne, which leads me to Manuel Werner. So then, that the number of imperialization it was described by trying to imitate the chaos Choniati followed Asia, 6 certain black-skinned Ethiopians, otherwise known as the emperor of the Romans, was a Gargantuan procession with splendid crowns, and first actually are generally, but unlike his father, from the quality was hard to find as are shown the Saxons, and the list goes on. Who with the Leshek II make the black of Poland, 13th century, face of the earth. Zoisha the by now, the most famous Polish Charlotte. There is one part that describes strong king black men left out. The famous Queen Charlotte, and that can only be found in Portuguese encyclopedia. It is that nevertheless Franklin, the imitation in 1310 and that of the black German king George II started to influence. Is sitting
but I think it's also worth
Alexander Dumas. In these famous we can even see how the medieval wigs imitate Georgian hairstyles. The music, even down to how the curly hair rests on the shoulder. Corpus Capitine. The famous theologian. So here it is important to and countless nights, if these wigs were not due to mimic Dutch African hairstyles and various other they imitating.
History.
Surely not in that European starter style incorporating tight curly nature of the wig cannot be found in that population. And there is only one people on earth with this type of kinky hair,
getting this out of an
and it is the
article
black
in
African.
2019
As the YouTube
Contingent
channel
magazine,
straight up
what they
said,
actually say
if they
is
could choose
it's
any
actually
type
used
of
as a criticism in
hairstyle,
everyday
why would they
conversation.
choose these particular
Revisionist
African
history refers to a
hairstyles in so many
conscious,
instances, and
intentional
especially in
misstatement about
royalty and high
things that occurred
society?
in the past,
Another
whether
Black and
distant or
History
recent.
Channel gem.
It can be used in
Along with the
context of
already
personal
mentioned
lives
The
or
Debunker and Mr.
relationships,
Theory on X, do check
the
them
cause
out.
of an argument,
But
for
women
instance,
of medieval and
or
late
in a
medieval
political
Europe
or
also
cultural
copied another
discussion.
defining
And at
feature
the
of
time
black
that
women.
basically this article
One
was written,
feature
they
that
were
was
talking
in
about
recent time
Obama's
denied or
2008,
mocked,
08,
but that has become
campaign
so sought
strategy,
after
or the
today
Iranian nuclear
that women
deal.
are now paying large
But
sums of money.
unlike saying someone is being forgetful or it's getting confused about what actually happened, accusing them of practicing revisionist history is actually accusing them of being a bad actor, of actually doing and intentionally and basically being a liar and playing fast and loose with the past. So that is basically what revisionist history is.
And just you guys could go and see our last week's show and the week before, where we actually talk about, go in depth on the meaning of it. And I noticed that on Sunday, Royal Sussex actually did some of that. You know what I mean? Where he chose to go a different route with that. That was he did.
You're talking about revisionist history in particularly in the context of The Crown. And
That's right.
some
And
people are accepting that as, you know.
yeah, even Meredith.
Right. And even Meredith went into it as well. She was talking about revisionist history, particularly with these headlines in Australia.
That's right.
That's right. So I was quite happy to see that, you know what, we are sort really using this and see it for what it is. So,
That's right.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of people talking about multiple sounds that actually happened. So I'll just go ahead and say that there was a mother
emergency.
a mother
Yes.
incident. And so what you heard was basically a frantic.
Me moving the mic really very, very fast, guy. I'm so sorry if you hear any sort of sound
So it
effect,
was-
so to speak. It's just
Sound
me try to
effects.
rush and get to my mother because, she,
She's not well.
she come first and she's not well. And so I want to make sure I'm watching her as I'm talking to you guys. So sometimes I feel like a little bit distracted. So that's what's happening. So I apologize.
So, and with that, as a quick recap, we also did iconoclasm.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, basically, it was used in the 1641, just very quickly, but basically is the action of attacking or assertively rejecting cherished beliefs and institutions or established values and practices. Or another, the second definition, is the rejection or destruction of religious images, such as heretical, the doctrine of iconoclasm. So that's basically what it is. So very quickly, in terms of kind of the traditional meaning, we'll go back into history just a little bit and just give you some context of what we're talking about. So the opposition to religious images, known as the iconoclasm, happened actually and began during the reign of Leo III of the Byzantine Empire. But it may not have actually become the official policy to his son, which is Constantine V, back in 754. So the iconoclasm stemmed from the second commandment given to Moses, which is, thou shalt not make any graven image, and thou shalt not bow down before them. So using that as justification, the images of Christ, Mary, any of the saints appearing actually increasingly in churches during these 6th and 7th centuries, the officials actually questioned their legitimacy, fearing that actually the veneration of those icons was tantamount to idolatry. And the iconoclasts actually emphasized the impossibility of depicting Christ's divinity, and so they thought it was their that was basically their justification of getting rid of all of them. So instead of having imagery of Christ or Mary or any of the saints, basically they are only giving, imagery towards the cross in and of itself. So that's what they wanted to do.
Right.
And so that actually happened for quite some time. And then basically there were its opponents, and eventually it actually went back. And then they started using more of the icons such as Christ and Mary and all that other stuff. So it kind of swung back the other direction about 100 years later.
Yeah. George.
Well, the one thing I would say before we jump into nobility more in depth, and I don't know if you have any more, Charles, to add from your side, but I'll just say that there is a lot in revisionist history and in iconoclasm in those last two services. So if you haven't had a chance to watch them yet, and this is your first time tuning in, definitely would suggest also
Can you
watching
explain for those people that have not following this, why we using this word? Why, what's the point of it? What is it that, we try to say? Can you explain to them what does that word? I know Charles just did it a little bit. Can you better explaining?
Well, yeah. So there's a lot, like I said, with it. But in a short version, the reason why we've been asking these questions stemmed from a question you asked, Lady Sussex, which is how do we make sense of the headlines that we're seeing in the tabloids when it doesn't none of it makes sense, none of it adds up in the sort of minutia of what's happening today. So we said, okay, let's take a step back and look at this historical perspective. Let's put things in context of what's happening to Meghan in particular. What's happening to her today in this larger story of what's been going on for history. And you look at the fact that even just with the idea of revisionist history, that there is no such thing as objective history. There is the past of what actually happened, but the only way we actually get at it is through what's been recorded and reflected upon by historians who have their own biases, who have their own things. There's oftentimes, even as Charles just mentioned, specific instances of people going and trying to revise history with a revisionist history approach, an intent to portray things differently than they were for a given reason. And we remarked at that point of how important it is to look at what's coming out in the tabloids today as those very artifacts that are going to be looked at by historians and by people who are trying to understand what actually happened today. And if you don't have any counter narrative to what's being put out by the tabloids, many people, if they didn't have any other context, would look at them as the truth in terms of what's happening with Meghan, who she is, who she and Harry are together. And that was the foundation from which we built with this idea of iconoclasm. That there's actually this movement. There's if you look in history, what's happened in Europe in particular, there has been a significant effort, and there's a lot of the sources we brought last week, which we're going to go into a little bit more detail today, of actually removing figures who had been in positions of power, positions of nobility, even beyond that, who were dark-skinned or black, and they removed them from the history books, and they didn't talk about them. So the question is there something connected there? Is there a connective thread there between what happened historically, in terms of even how history was reported,
and to what we are
today?
watching and see that they doing to Meghan, and how does that tie in? Because that's what I wanted to know. Again, it's all come from once that lady wrote the whole idea that, I no longer want to support, Meghan because she wore a red dress. It just I get so really upset and so didn't understand. I'm like, no, there must be something much more behind this, sort of. And we really actually living this word as the moment, because we see it happen even with the tour that's happening.
Happening in real time, yeah.
In real time. We very often probably not thinking about it or not thinking of that word, but it happens literally every single day. People are telling you what you're seeing, it's not what it is. Do you understand what I mean? They say one thing today, tomorrow they say something else. For an example, I think, Chris with a P, not with a T, like, why am I doing this? Oh, God, Royal Sussex, you see?
Ship. Yeah,
Chris
Ship with a P.
With a P, not with a T. God. Oh, God, you're going to punish me for that. But anyway, the point that I'm making is he had once challenged the squad by saying that he never say something. I think it was something to the effect that he never said that he was not going to be reporting on them. I'm not really sure exactly. So, but you know what the Sussex squad did? They quickly, I'd bring their receipt. And he had nothing to say. Now, could you imagine we have not have those receipts? You know what I mean? It becomes a matter of fact, because they're constantly changing depending on what channel these people are speaking to, whether it's US or whatever. This is something completely very, very, very different. Do you understand what I mean? It's like that woman Tina Brown or whatever that is. Very recently, from time to time, she will say something smart. She will say something like, "Okay, certainly she's." Looks like she's not Meghan fan, but it seems fair, whatever. And then to the next day, she says something out of like it completely contrasts what she tells people.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean? It's happening all the time. And 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you don't even know what the truth is.
And you don't know that, and then and again, with especially what we started last week and what we're going to continue this week, that idea of iconoclasm as a broader historical movement, what that has done in terms of specifically its impact on Black communities and the Black representation in history,
and how we think, not we, I think, in my opinion, because just me, I don't know what you guys think, but how that relate to Meghan, or at least I think it's probably a way to answer some of questions that I have.
That's right.
And I could be wrong, but yeah. Go ahead. So for the word of nobility, how should I look at nobility, since this seems to have a problem of telling us how many Black nobility beside the ones in Africa, that were they? In Europe.
And just to build from the definition that Charles shared, I have two journals to add. I think you're going to enjoy them, Lady Sussex, and I'm sure everyone will, in terms of just some of the perspectives you go back in history. The first one is called Nobles and Nobility in Medieval Europe, Concepts, Origins, and Transformations. It's by Anne Dugan, who was the editor of that, was published in King's College London in 1998. And it's actually the first chapter, the very first bit, how it opens up. It's they themselves take a quote. And the quote is, "Indeed, I am not sprung from an ancient line of kings," wrote Thomas Becket in 1166, rising to the taunt that he had been raised from poverty through the king's favor. Nevertheless, I prefer to be a man of whom nobility of mind creates nobility than one in whom nobility of birth degenerates. This response neatly encapsulates the two principal elements in the construction of nobility in the Middle Ages: distinction based on birth, blood, and lineage, and distinction of character and intellect, and expresses the recurrent theme that one could and often did exist without the other.
Do tell.
So that's the first one. And then the second source is related, but it's actually a little bit different because it's talking more about the process of ennoblement and how that relates to those two different sort of sources of nobility. And the second one is called The Notion of Nobility and the Impact of Ennoblement on Early Modern Central Europe. It's by Klaus Margreiter, and it was published in Central European History in 2019. And he writes, this article, in terms of the abstract describing, he says, this article discusses the problem of why there was a constant demand for ennoblement in the 17th and 18th century Central Europe, even though those who aspired to it had little or no prospect of integration into the established feudal nobility. Mm-hmm. Nobility was first and foremost an ideological concept closely connected to power and rule. The Holy Roman Emperors ennobled persons who exercised power precisely because, in the pre-modern social order, the exercise of power was a prerogative of the nobility. However, the newly ennobled had only their title in common with the old aristocratic families and rarely attained the other privileges enjoyed by those families. For this reason, the emperor's practice of ennoblement gradually reshaped the nobility as a whole, and simultaneously the ideological notion of nobility. Certainly, the ennoblement still served a strategic purpose in the context of social advancement, particularly for civil servants and military officers. It was the most effective means of preserving their newly acquired status for their descendants and possibly establishing their families in a new bureaucratic and military hereditary elite, which in some places coexisted with the old aristocracy. The central element of the new ideological concept was the notion of the nobility as a hereditary ruling class, both qualified for and entitled to the exercise of power on account of inherited superiority.
Well, I think that's it. The article says it all, because if you have a group of people which you remove any type of power that they have, and I'm talking about black people, or that's what you want to remove their power. So you will never want to associate them with nobility.
That's right. And I think the other thing that struck me from that is and it's something that you know, but that it to be so explicitly expressed is the two kinds of nobility.
That's right. You have the militaries. Mm-hmm.
You have those who have it because they have been part of the aristocracy for the longest time, and it is by simple heritage, and then the aristocracy who rise up because of their intellect or their character or whatever it may be. But I think in context of that, the interesting thing is the dynamic that's expressed by the second journal, which is that the way that leaders, emperors in that case, were actually using that ability to ennoble people actually changed what it even meant to be nobility in the first place. That it was something that was previously reserved for a select few, and then because it almost became more mainstream. But that's a separate issue. But the idea is how it ties to this idea that it is something in flux. The nobility, it can move around.
It can, because, for me, at least my era, it just, at least how I understand it, it also, for people that was extremely, really intellectual, fit that kind of nobility as well, too. So at least, as I said, again, these things, they change. But what I don't get and what I don't understand is that, why was many of, if not all, black people were removing from that list.
It's the question of the day.
And so, given that they did remove them from the list, which we don't know why, are we able to explain why they want to remove Meghan? Because again, the birth certificate of her son, they literally left out her name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an interesting thing, right? So, I mean, there could be multiple reasons here. So I don't necessarily think there has to be just one. But you have to also keep in mind who is doing the exclusion. And in this particular case, the church was the one who was actually doing the exclusion. So, and what they were having at the time is that they had Islam and they had what was going on with the church and how that was actually mixing inside Europe. And so it could be just how they're trying to position that could be a reason, but there's also many other different kinds of reasons that other scholars have basically surmised and tried to and made their opinion about it. So it's interesting just in terms of, okay, well, what side of that line you try and find yourself on, or which side of the line you actually agree with. It could be a mix of all of them. So I think it's just interesting in terms of, who was actually, like, what was actually being after. They could have been pursuing multiple goals. So,
yeah, but again, I am asking this question: is where we are right now with those words, that can we start unravel or have some type of explanation why they did remove Meghan out of her kids? Well, not, the girl,
From
I don't
Archie's
know,
birth
at
certificate,
least Archie's birth certificate.
That and answer a number of other questions about Meghan's treatment today.
That's right. So I think that, it's going to be interesting. You have more to read, right? To start getting into the clip to continue, what we started last week or 2 weeks ago, I think. No? Last week?
Last week, yeah.
Last week. So should we play our first clip?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
John II Komnenos, viewed by many as one of the greatest emperors of Byzantium who ruled from 1118 to 1143, described as, quote, a man of medium height, with black hair and black skin, and for this reason he is still called the Moor, end quote. The reference can be found in William of Tyre Chronicon 1523.
Difficulty?
As you can see again, his post-iconoclast depictions look nothing like the written first-hand accounts.
Try to do things a bit different.
So too goes the description of his son, who followed him on the throne, Manuel Wer Komnenos, Emperor of Byzantium. He was described by his contemporary Niketas Choniates as follows, quote, a certain black-skinned Ethiopian. They acclaimed him emperor of the Romans and led him about in procession with splendid crown on his head, end quote. But unlike his father, his image, although hard to find, depicts him as shown. And the list goes on. Leszek II, the Black of Poland, 13th century. Zawisza the Black, the most famous Polish knight. Augustus, the strong king of Poland. The famous Queen Charlotte, with her Moorish Portuguese antecedents. Queen Philippa of Hainaut, who was born in 1310 in Valenciennes in France, who had black Moorish ancestry. She married Edward of York. Alexandre Dumas, the famous author of The Three Musketeers. George Bridgetower, the music composer who rivaled with Beethoven. Jacobus Capitine, the famous theologian. And countless knights, judges, dukes, duchesses, viscounts, and various other noble titles. So much so that Europeans started incorporating elements of the black phenotype into their cultural rituals.
And let us know if the sound came through for you all. I think in the chat you all have said that you could hear it. For some reason it wasn't playing in our headphones, so it was supposed to be. But in terms of that first clip, this is the next section after the clips that we played in the last service. And for those who watched that, you'll know he established quite a bit of the history that led up to that moment. And in this clip that we just played, that creator without history is actually going on in terms of the extent to which there was black nobility that were then systematically removed from the history textbooks, and the even just the revisionist history that was happening. And that idea that the mechanism by which that was done was that iconoclasm, which ostensibly targeted all icons, but ultimately served as a vehicle for that ability to really almost literally, this is the author's argument, to whitewash history in terms of how those figures were portrayed.
Yeah, so I guess we're going to move to the second clip. Do you have something to add?
No, I think he covered it. I think George covered it quite well. I think it's just a continuation of what we were talking about last week and about the extent to which nobility was more or less kind of whitewashed through later Europe.
clip 2?
Getting clip 2 queued up, but while we do that.
Yeah.
By the way, Black Queen just showed up on the radar. So hello, Black Queen. She says, hello, Sussex family. Just came back from her daughter's boot camp graduation. And
How
was
was
fantastic.
it? Oh, my goodness.
And she received an Army Achievement Medal for being the female Iron Soldier for the highest physical fitness test. So
Ooh,
congratulations.
That's really good.
Yep. More buff than I am. For
Wow,
sure.
she's certainly going to move up the rank very quickly.
Yeah, congratulations.
Congratulations on that. That
and
is
and also
so
thank you for the
good.
super sticker, by the way.
Oh my God, thank you. So yes, we are trying to get to our next clip, but it's
Yeah, it's giving us some fun stuff today.
you gotta talk, Charles. 'Cause I don't know what to say. I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. Well, basically, as I say, it's the joys of doing live shows, because we had actually tested this out twice.
At the enduring cultural elements that were started in medieval Europe, some interesting practices emerge. The first one being the wearing of the wig. The practice started in the courtroom, and historical texts show that, until the 17th century, lawyers were expected to appear in court with clean, short hair and beards. Wigs made their first appearance in a courtroom purely and simply because that's what was being worn outside it. The reign of Charles II, 1660 to 1685, made wigs essential wear for polite society.
It's playing now.
So then, who was the general population trying to imitate? They were trying to imitate the king, Charles II. Charles II, 1630 to 85, otherwise known as the Merry Monarch, was a gargantuan baby. At 4 months he already looked, his mother complained, like a 1-year-old. From the age of 12 he took part in English Civil War battles and was described as a tall black man in parliamentary wanted posters. By now you know the drill. If Charles II was described as a tall black man, why would he be depicted as such on his painting shown in Wikipedia? Nevertheless, the imitation of his natural hair and that of traditional black nobility started to influence the very aspects of European culture. In these pictures we can even see how the medieval wigs imitate Kemetic hairstyles, even down to how the curly hair rests on the shoulders. So here it is important to ask, if these wigs were not made to mimic or copy African hairstyle, whose hair were they imitating? Surely not the natural European hairstyle, as the tight curly nature of the wigs cannot be found in that population. And there is only one people on earth with this type of kinky hair, and it is the black African. As the YouTube channel straight up said, if they could choose any type of hairstyle, why would they choose these particular African hairstyles in so many instances, and especially in royalty and high society? Another Black and History Channel gem. Along with the already mentioned The Debunker and Mr. Theory on X, do check them out. But women of medieval and late medieval Europe also copied another defining feature of black women. One feature that was, in recent time, denied or mocked, but that has become so sought after today that women are now paying large sums of money to imitate and obtain: the large posterior. And in Europe they went as far as creating appendages such as the bustle to specifically amplify the woman's posterior. The sole purpose of the device was to give European women the appearance of having a larger behind, just to give you an idea of how popular this body augmentation procedure has become. In 2020, 397,000 women underwent butt lift procedures. And that's not counting the large number of women who spend countless hours in the gym to gain more mass in that specific area. I strongly suspect that lipstick was also invented for the same reasons. That is, to imitate the black woman's natural luscious lips. This is something I will look into later. This doesn't mean that black women are more beautiful than their counterparts, or vice versa. It just shows that black women in positions of power influenced medieval European society to a point where their features were associated with beauty and power, and were thus imitated. In the same way that the reverse is now becoming true for many black women who have for some time tried to imitate the hairstyle of white women.
It's insane, right? It is like, my God, make you look at history in a whole different light. All these dresses and all these things, especially somebody like myself who love this kind of, eras, dressing, the costumes and things like that, and not really having an understanding why it's so not. It just put like a sort of something to it that just insane. But is it something we all know? You know, I mean, we know that, you know what, our culture, our style, you know, it's been imitating, you know, all over the world all the time. Our music, you know, our food, you know, this is not really new stuff. You know, the problem is that I've always have, is that, you know, how when they start doing it, you know, how, you know, they put another name to it. Like, for an example, they used to call Brazilian
Butt
butts,
lift.
you know, or Brazilian lips. Why don't you just say black lips and black butts? Do you understand what I mean? It just, they will find like some name and where they change it instead of saying, I want a black person lips, that full lips. I want that. I want that derriere, you know, sort of, so to speak, you know, of a black woman. And now these days, we know every, you know, a lot of, they call it BLL or B something. What's the name of it? The butt lift. You know, what's the acronym for it?
Well, yeah,
BBL.
Brazilian butt lift, yeah.
Oh, so it's Brazilian butt lift.
Yeah.
Oh, so that, you see what I'm saying? You see
Yeah,
what
I
I'm
assume,
saying?
I assume.
It's like, you know, they all go in and get this derriere, you know, sort of to mimic or to look very close to a black woman, and then yet not getting the credit. So, I mean, this is, at least for me, you know, when what I've seen now is it's something that's been happening for years. You know, they still are style. They still are, you know, sort of, you know, the way we do things. Even now, as of like one of the things that, you know what, if you know any black girls, black women, you know, sort of, you know, what do we enjoy doing when we go into sleep? Right? We like to tie our hair. We like to put those silk wrap and everything. And now it's popular culture where many of white women, they are now doing it. They are getting into it. And so now they find a different name for it. But it's something that, you know, you know, as a little girl, the first thing that, you know, your parents going to do when you go into bed, put your cap on, you know. It protects our skin. It protects our hair. You know, sort of, it's almost like now they are doing it. You know, like, I mean, you know, I have a friend of mine, you know, she show up at, you know, she used to laugh, so to speak. Then she said, why you tie your hair? You got to let your hair loose. I said, no, you know, I want to protect my hair and protect my skin. And now she's doing it, and she's spending a lot of money. Do you understand what I mean? I mean, for me, I just go to maybe perhaps one of those, you know, beauty shops and get my $5 or $10, you know, net. She's spending $300. And it's like, what? When did you start doing this?
Yeah, she's a little extra.
You know, and the hair and the style, it's now making you really question, like, you know, because, you know, there is this, you know, Queen Elizabeth the first, you know, the style of the hair and the wig, and it makes you wonder, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. Sharon Maitland said, "What is French about French braids?"
Exactly.
I'm honestly, watching that clip, it really does make you almost like jaw dropping, you know, to just think, to even ask the question of why this whole thing you're taught about the wigs that they wore when they went into court. Even just taking that one specific example,
the tight curls,
you grow up accepting that that's just, you know, they just chose to do that for whatever reason. But then to actually say, well, no, what was actually the influence? What caused that? And to then go and look at, in this case, it was Charles II, and his,
that's right,
his natural hair. Who were they trying to copy? Who are they trying to reflect their own power by reflecting someone who has more power than them? And the fact that it is entirely possible that he did not look the way he's currently depicted.
Exactly.
Well, and then you also have how that actually mimics what's going on in ancient Egypt. And remember that how many of the things from ancient Egypt they actually took over to Britain at the time.
That's right.
And that was the hairstyle that basically all of the pharaohs had, right? Is basically that's the way that they were that they were reflected.
At least
so it's a reflection.
Yeah.
So that's basically, it was a direct reflection off of what they were seeing, right? So it is definitely very, very interesting in that way.
So,
and then also the bustle, right? Like, I had never put two and two together, realizing that the bustle you see in all these old movies, that was basically, you know, that in order to kind of make their behind look bigger. but why would they do that in the first place? Like, what were they trying to emulate? And then it matches up perfectly.
So now, is that explain why when you looked at Princess of Wales now, Catherine, and how they make sure anything that Meghan wore, and now she wear it. Because if we didn't understand, we didn't know this kind of looks that they had with the wigs and the big butt, where that come from. Many of us probably didn't get that, didn't understand that, didn't put the two together. We assuming that was just white people's look. This is what they used to do. That was the style then. Can you see why is that now they create a history based, Meghan, she has incredible impact, look, style and everything. And they're removing that away from her and put it in Catherine. And that association of her being the most stylish woman in the world that everybody's copying and sold out just to make sure that, she doesn't have the credit. Is it possible? That is the reason why.
It's honestly, it's remarkable how closely it aligns with what was just happening historically, what that creator just described in terms of there being a black woman of power, of influence, that then the rest of the white aristocracy went to copy and replicate exactly what they're doing.
We could even see it in Spain as well too. We saw that princess. There's a lot of the style Meghan doing. It's been replicating into the royal circle a lot, from colors to everything that she wore. So it's just begged the question now with that kind of information, whether or not that's what it is about. Because then you will probably maybe in the future, if we don't fight this, that you will never know there was a noble, a princess that brought style into the royal family, which has happened to be Meghan Markle.
That's right. And then no less actually of an influential figure had talked about this kind of like how impactful and pervasive black nobility was than Ben Franklin. And we have a clip actually just for that.
That's right.
And before we jump into the next clip, because I don't know if we could give it a full shout out, and it's worth a second shout out even if we did already, and I may have missed it when looking at things, but to Black Queen, thank you twice now for the update and for the super stickers in terms of your daughter getting the Army Achievement Medal for being the female Iron Soldier for the highest physical fitness test, and then saying that the highest male score was a fellow Jamaican, that she was so proud that she is now in officer candidate school in Georgia. Continued prayers are appreciated, which we will certainly continue to do. And also thank you to V-Brame for the super sticker as well. And to that, what you mentioned, also Black Queen, just that it's funny how the economic reward for that influence and that style frequently doesn't go to those who created it in the first place. Because even just with that idea of the baby carry body wraps.
Yes.
Black Queen said that just like the baby carry body wraps that African women invented centuries ago, now it's $1 billion industry, not in our favor.
That's right. Not in our favor. And it keeps happening all the time. And so for me, I wanted it to see where is that it's coming from. Why is it that, they kept having, Princess of Wales, that, when she coming in the world stage, that, the kind of way that she used to dress, in my opinion, was not too modest. There's nothing, what inspired her with. So she moved to more like costume, sort of thing. I don't have any problem with that, but that was her style. She wore a lot of, coat dresses, and she becomes, the princess who wear coat dresses. I don't have any problem with that. Some of them will look really, really nice. That was her style. But it seems to me when Meghan comes around, spite of the fact that, she didn't wear too much color because she wasn't trying to causing any problem. But even in the things that she wear when she stepped out, was just not just only elegant, it was classic. It was everything that you will think of, sort of expect a royalty woman will wear. But that was just her own look. And we also know now it's not like the royal pay for it. She paid for her own clothes because they didn't cover her, allegedly.
It's true.
Do you understand what I mean? So it's not like you can even say, okay, they provided to, no, she, paid for her own clothes. Do you see what I'm saying? You see where I'm getting at?
And then they want Kate to copy her.
And it's even like, to even her veil. The fact that, she thought that, it would be an incredible idea to incorporate all the Commonwealth in her veil. And I will still argue now that based on everything that I've read, I don't know that for, factual. But what I will say is, when you looked at her veil, I think her veil was designed for a very different tiara. It's appeared to be, in my opinion, I don't know that to be factual, but they did not want to give her a tiara. They didn't want to give her a tiara. And it seems to me, when they find out there's a possibility, if we don't give her a tiara, then Harry's family from the other side, her mother's side, they will provide the Diana tiara, the Spencer's tiara. And it's all changed very quickly because they didn't want her to have that tiara. I have a big feeling, in my opinion, that's what happened. Because when you looked at her veil and you looked at Diana, the Spencer tiara, you could see the elements of it was there. Do you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so I have a feeling during the whole time, all that discussion that they were having, I think Harry had made it very clear that, in my opinion, I don't know that to be true, that if you don't give her a tiara, well, she's going to wear. And I think this probably was conversation, and I think that veil was designed for that tiara.
Yeah.
That is my opinion. So, should we move on
Yes.
to the next before I get myself into trouble here?
We will move on to the next, but I do think this is a beautiful story and thing that you shared, Sylvia Fielder, that is worth saying out loud for others to know and to hear as well, especially that are going through the same unfortunate kind of circumstances today in too many cases. Sylvia Fielder shared that in the early 80s, I was told that I could not wear a scarf to work. I was terminated for choosing to continue to tie up my hair. Of course, I was working in a wealthy non-black community, to which Black Queen had shared so said that happened to you. They were hating because their hair is not as versatile as yours. But then Sylvia saying that exactly, and God moved her to a large company to open up new opportunities that was even greater. So that's an amazing thing to see that it ended up working out for the better, but still an unfortunate thing that you had to.
Yeah, I mean, people's journey, when things happen, sometimes, I feel like it's God saying it's either this is not for you, I'm protecting you for something else, and I want you to move on to something better. And I'm glad that she did.
Exactly. And with that, now we'll move to the next clip. We're gonna have to mute our mics, and then we'll get it playing.
That's right.
We have been portrayed by mainstream historians is at least inaccurate and at worst dishonest, and I quote, "Why should the Palatine Boers, Germans, be suffered to swarm into our settlements, and by herding together establish their language and manners to the exclusion of ours? Why should Pennsylvania, founded by the English, become a colony of aliens, who will shortly be so numerous as to Germanize us instead of our Anglifying them, and will never adopt our language or customs any more than they can acquire our complexion?" Which leads me to add one remark, that the number of purely white people in the world is proportionally very small. All Africa is black or tawny, Asia chiefly tawny, America, exclusive of the newcomers, wholly so, and in Europe the Spaniards, Italians, French, Russians, and Swedes are generally of what we call a swarthy complexion, as are the Germans also, the Saxons only excepted, who with the English make the principal body of white people on the face of the earth. End quote. There is one part of this Franklin quote that is often left out or ignored, and that can only be found in select books. It is that when Benjamin Franklin wrote this essay in 1751, the black German king George II is sitting on the throne of England.
Yeah. So exactly. So what do you guys make up with that?
It's one of those sort of data points that you hear, and it does make you go back and really question the way things were taught to us in the education system in terms of what was actually going on in history. And so that's one thing that immediately jumps out, and it also just one of those things that resonates as being true, in terms of just the amount of population in the world that was purely white. I mean, Ben Franklin writing that, it's like actually very quite small. And so
Yeah,
things start to add things together and ask those questions, and they start to make a lot more sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you think about, I don't know when the Italians they become white, when the Irish become white, and there's so many people probably in my mother's generation that was never considered to be white that has become white now. So that tells you everything that you need to know. But the idea is that, you know what, as many black people and as much we moving, I remember seeing this document in National Geographic was that, Eve, something about Eve. God, what was
The
it?
real Eve, I think.
The real Eve. If you guys can find this, I think we should actually sort of try to maybe on that so we can actually do something on that, because it shows you when black people leave Africa and how they move around the world. So it would be very, very interesting to do something like that. But again, this is what I am saying. When you see, what they are doing to Meghan and how they're going after her, there is something about it just doesn't make any sense. The fact that these people are risking as much as they're risking, there must be something else at play here, that they're willing to lose their livelihood, to actually sort of, what it cannot just be because I hate this woman. Yes, I know that they do, but what else? It's been 8 years.
Well, it's interesting because to me, what that speaks to is that it's part of a playbook. It just seems that especially when you have the historical context that we're starting to illuminate now, you realize that, okay, well, a lot of these things just don't necessarily make, like, why are they doing, like, there's lots of reasons why they should not be doing that. There's obvious reasons why this is actually a bad idea, but as is being demonstrated, right? I mean, everyone can kind of see it. It's a very transparent motive, but when you start looking at it with the lens of history, you start to see, okay, well, actually, they're doing very similar things they've been doing heretofore. And if you don't know anything, you know that basically Britain and the royal family basically they're very prescriptive things. The reason why they do have protocols is because they have lineage. They have 1,000 years of history that basically say, okay, well, look, this is actually what you do in X situation. And it seems that they're just simply trying to follow a rule book.
But is that explain as well why we saw this woman treated, in my opinion, based on what I've seen, these folks over, down, under the way she did, the way she ignores them, the way she look almost down on them as she's walking the line she's supposed to be the walkabout, that many royals before her will literally stop. They will look at people in the face. They will communicate, and she couldn't even be bothered.
No, I think it just speaks to the fact of, like, she thinks she's above those rules.
That's right. And when she comes, of course, what seems to me, again, around people of color, it's like a laughing stock. It's like, it's almost like she's looking at a cartoon, or she's looking at, a circus. You know what I mean? The fact is, these people was in the rain, try to perform for you, try to do something ceremonial. And then all you can do is putting your fan over your face and kind of laughing and giggle and chatting, and there's no respect. And you even see that as she's leaving the country, the continent. It's just kind of, she just, couldn't be bothered. She just, like, stop a conversation, whatever, and she just go. It's like, it was so bad. I hate the fact that I'm talking about this woman, but it just, it's because I know what they have done to Meghan and what they have saying about Meghan, and now to see she's getting away with this bothers me. And so for me is that, are we seeing what this author, what this host is saying to us? It's just them, sort of not leaving this thing that they have against Black people or people of color. And so if you bring Meghan Markle, a woman that, who is biracial, and all of a sudden she becomes this face, she becomes this head, then all of a sudden maybe too many of us will be what? Will have hope, or too many of us will...
You might have hit the nail on the head there.
Do you understand what I mean? It's that's what it is. We can't allow her to have any credit. We cannot allow her for people to love her that much, because, we don't want these people around us like that. What does that mean? Why was she removed out of this birth certificate? I want that question to be answered. Of your own child. Yeah. I mean, just saying it right now, it's upsetting.
Yeah, and I think that also, again, we mentioned this in the last service, but again, with these clips that we've just played now, it goes to the importance of those types of documents for when you're trying to go and actually find out what was the past, what actually happened. You have to rely on documents that survive that moment in time, whether it is from the news or if it is from culture, like things that were actually created, physical things, or documents, legal documents like marriage certificates, birth certificates. Those are the things that you can actually use to recreate what happened and try to understand history and understand the past in the context of history. And so the fact that they tried to keep Meghan's name, or they're successful, right, in keeping Meghan's name off of Archie's.
I think that if I'm right, they probably had correct, or there was a demand for it to be added on. So,
but even
I'm not really clear on that. But yeah.
Even the intention to keep her name off, it begs that question, and it is a question that seems much more harsh and precise in this broader context of what's been happening with iconoclasm, what's been happening with historical figures and how they've been washed over.
And one of the things that it also, again, when you start, this is what's so scary about even try to look into this woman to try to find anything positive, that you can't. Because when you see after what Jeremy, what is his last name? Clarkson did. And then I believe it was the next day, this woman had lunch with Clarkson.
No. That was the night before.
Or the night before.
It was the night before the whole thing. He wrote the article. They had lunch. Or they had dinner or whatever.
Dinner or whatever that is. And this is the kind of circle that she's running around. The people that was writing awful things about another woman. And we have never seen anyone step up and say, you know what, that cannot be. But why? Why? Like I feel like, at least my opinion, we need to move away it just because, it's what I believe, Meghan is representing to the world right now. And the fact that they're not accepting the way the world is changing. I feel like, it's just even much more just, there's something beyond that.
And beyond that, potentially, from our co-host Connie and Julie, thank you for the super sticker suggesting that it is the end stage of narcissism. The royal family's mask is off.
Absolutely, because, you can see it in real time now. The cat is out of the bag now. Because they went there, I was expecting more. How was I expecting that, they were going to have the kind of crowd? Because this woman would never be Diana. She will never be even Meghan. But at least I was expecting she was going to show up and at least represent the crown in a way that, can make some British people, at least the people that, who adore her, who like her, who support her, proud. And I'll be damned to have anyone come to me and argue what happened, make them proud. Because I don't see it.
Yeah.
I didn't see it. You want to be fabulous? Keep that shoes on. You want to be beautiful? Get your hair. I mean, from what I understand, they say she went to a spa, right? Right before. You want to be a queen? There is things that come with that title. When we say that we are feeling like a queen, there is something that come with it. And if you go back to history of, even her predecessor, it's just kind of like it was about, much more. It was
a
fashion.
job.
It was a job.
It was literally a job. There's responsibilities that these people have outside of the fact that they're just spending taxpayer money, which they're spending gobs of it. But there was literally a job that they have to do. And likewise there were requirements. There was protocol. There were things they actually have to accomplish. And unfortunately, she's very bad at her job.
And the thing is, obviously, this woman is known to be probably now the most famous, one of the most famous, sort of mistress that will make it to be queen. So I get that. So, it's in history, many of the kings, they always have, their mistress. But at least those mistresses before her was something to talk about. They have something. And they had something to offer, many of them. What does this woman have to offer?
Well, what I will say is that it didn't seem like they were a detriment.
Exactly.
I don't think any of the past ladies, we'll just call them that, had anything like there weren't any demerits that they brought onto the crown, unlike where I think we're seeing right now.
This is like, I think what's got me really upset, why I'm actually even talking about this woman, it's because how could that be? How could this woman make a mockery of the House of Windsor the way she did, represent herself the way she did, right after, Queen Elizabeth left us, who served for how many years? Whether you agree with what she has done, whatever, how you feel about her, this is what comes after her? This is the best you got? Really, Charles? King Charles? Really? Media? Press? Who love monarchies? Who's all about protocols? Seriously? You guys got to do better than that. I think we need to move to the next clip.
All right, we'll have to mute mics. And
But for now, one must be thinking, if there were so many black people in Europe, where did they all go? And this next section gives us a good clue of what happened. It wasn't just one event that reduced the number of black Europeans to such low levels. It was the compounding effect of multiple trends: the Reconquista, the Inquisition, the forced exodus, and the fleeing of the Jacobites.
Is off and I'm trying to talk. Yes, where do they all go? And I think that's probably not just only where do they all go, where all the bodies, the bones, where do they bury them? Where do they go? What do they do with them? And I think, we have one person that will ask that question very, very, very well.
she did, but I don't know if you want to tell everybody now, is that question, even that, and what we're going to play next, how that sets up that this is going to be spread across 3.
Yes, absolutely. Because I think that, it was getting really, really, really long, you guys. So we're going to finish answering that question in the next service. But we want to make sure that, we can actually take the time and actually do each segment, and talk about and tie it into what we seen happening to Meghan. Is that's what it is. And what's happening to now with, sort of our vice president, to be better understand. And so we know how to protect it, how to talk about it, because at least for me, it's just weird that, somebody will come in, in a paper, write in a paper that, oh, I don't like her because of the red dress that she wear. It just didn't make any sense to me. And so when you listen to what Lydia asked and said, let's Lydia, Senator Lydia.
You committed genocide against our people. Give us our land back. Give us what you stole from us. Our bones, our skulls, our babies, our people. You destroyed our land. Give us a treaty. We want a treaty in this country. You are a genocider. This is not your land. This is not your land. You are not my kids. You are not our kids.
And they start playing this
It
wonderful
almost looked,
music.
honestly, it's hard to see, but it almost looked like they were just literally laughing, Charles and Camilla, while that was happening.
It's
It certainly did.
it's embarrassing for them, certainly. What do you say? What do you say? Because the truth of the matter is, the question that she's posing, what she's asking, it's what everybody in Africa is asking. It's what India is asking. Do you understand what I'm saying? Our people, there is stories about, they used to even take the biracial children and send them away, kidnap them.
Well, not just the biracial. They used to do that just generally.
Do you understand what I'm saying? There's a lot that have been done.
As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, I may be, but I'm not sure. I think I'm not mistaken. That practice of actually abducting Aboriginal children in Australia only changed in the 70s.
Nicole Kidman did a movie on that with, oh God, what's his name again? I forgot.
Hugh Jackman?
Yes.
Well, there was actually 2 about it, but yes.
You see what I'm
More
saying?
than 2, but yeah. Yeah, but that's my point. My point being is that it actually happened very recently, like within my lifetime. That actually has been going on.
That is a question that as they're moving, if they ever even have any more tool, that they're gonna have to confront.
If they have any more.
Really.
And so I think we're going to have to leave it there and actually.
Before we leave it, though, I got to say I'm very, very excited for next week's service and concluding this Iconoclast series, because it has been eye-opening, it's been illuminating, it's been very, I'd make jaw-dropping into an adjective, but it has been a remarkable series. And again, thank you, Lady Sussex, for doing that work of doing the research, finding out what we should be spending our time thinking about, asking questions about.
We do. We need to do even more about it, because obviously it's a glimpse. I don't know if all these things are truly factual. I don't know. It's just what makes sense to me at the moment, and I needed something to make sense, because then I'm like, I can deal with it if it makes sense, good or bad. If it makes sense to me, I get it, but a lot of it just was not making any sense. at least for me, for myself, I needed to have that resolution, that almost like that peace, and say, oh, okay, this is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I'm saying. This is now I understand it in a very different way. My eyes are open in a much more different way. Maybe that is the point. You know what I mean? Not allowing people eyes to open, which is why now, what did they say? They call it the woke generation.
Yeah.
Because they want us to be asleep. So I think, as we going down that path and try to figure out where the hate is coming from on Meghan, and the fact that, for the last 8 years, they've been at this woman, we have to understand all of it. Because we see it too many times. And we are seeing it again with our vice president, who is a biracial woman. And I don't believe it's going to stop there. It's the thing that, we all face when you're from a place, whether it's France, Germany, or anywhere in the world that, supposedly, people think that, we don't occupy, we're not there. And then you say, hey, I'm from Germany, I'm from France, or I'm from, Italy, or wherever. No, where you really, really, really from? Where do you really, no, I'm from, no, where is your families from? Do you understand what I mean? This is something that, you know what, many of us have to deal with on a daily basis. So we'll find out the answer to figure out where all the black people have gone next week.
Next week.
And so what we do now, we'll move to verse.
Before verse, just for anyone who did join us after we opened up the service, just want to again say thank you, Lady Sussex, for giving Charles and I the opportunity to plug some of the work that we're doing. And again, ask everyone for, if you're not doing it already, to please subscribe to the Planet First Action Initiative on YouTube.
Oh my God.
On Instagram and on Twitter. It is incredible work that we are privileged to be able to do, and we really do want to share it and make a difference, make the world a better place. Inspired in part by the work that Harry himself and Meghan herself are doing on the world stage.
The way I look at it, I think it's like a community service, because it is important that, to have people that you trust, or you want to sort of, that's out there doing a work or highlighting on things that is happening. Maybe perhaps you're not paying too much attention, or you don't know. So if, you go and you support those guys from the work that they are doing, you'll learn so much things, maybe in a way that, perhaps, if somebody else is saying it, because you already know how they speak, you know that, what they talk about, it's something that, is going to be really, really, really important. So please go and support them.
And there's a lot, even there's great content coming up for, especially as Lady Sussex had alluded to, that we have planned for Thanksgiving, for the holidays at the end of the year, and even things in between. But even just from some of the last events and things that the work we've been doing, we were waiting to get at least 50, if not 100, on Instagram following us, so we can get a few more of those things up there. We'd love
the pictures.
Exactly. We'd love to share some more of where we've been, what we've been up to with you all. We just need to get a few more subscribers.
That's right. And they're also good to look at. They're very, very good looking, man. So
thank you.
I will say, yeah, well,
we paid her
you
for
guys
that.
are very good looking. You're very pleasant in the eyes. So, yeah, that should worth something.
Yeah, we'll pay you. You keep going. We'll keep paying you more.
Oh, boy.
And now, okay, I'll take the channels off the page and get back to regularly scheduled programs.
That's right. We are moving on to
verses.
Please.
Right. So I got two for you. And I thought, just given everything that we've been going over for the last couple of weeks, I thought it would be nice to speak a little bit about and have some verses about equality.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's two for you that I thought were quite nice. The first is Psalms chapter 67, verse 4. May the nations be glad and sing for joy. for you rule the peoples with equity and guide the nations of earth. Which I thought that's what people should be doing. And the next is James 2, verses 8 through 9. If you really keep the royal law found in the scripture, love your neighbor as yourself, you are doing right. But if you show favoritism, you sin and are convicted by the law as lawbreakers.
Amen. Amen. Josh.
There is so much to be thankful for. There's so much to pray for. I know I saw in the chat earlier on in the service someone adding to what you had shared, Lady Sussex, in terms of praying for the Sussex's staff, in addition to the Sussexes themselves and their family, but specifically among their staff, also their bodyguards.
That's right.
Who do incredible work in terms of keeping them safe. So certainly prayers for the Sussex's bodyguards. And I'm just bringing up something just because it is it struck actually both Charles and I earlier this week from an event that we were at that was focused on getting more investment to move into solutions that are going to decarbonize the grid, help drive impact for those who are living in poverty, just ultimately that impact of the Sustainable Development Goals, all of that type of work. What does it take to do that? And there was a great leader who was sharing his work from actually his time in doing humanitarian work. I think it was in Guatemala.
Yeah.
And he had shared just this insight in terms of the key, which a lot of people know, is when it comes to just actually having empathy. And it is one thing to say to have empathy, but it's another thing to know what does it take to actually get to that point, to feel empathy, and then to be able to act on it, to activate one's sense of empathy and almost reflect on it as a type of muscle. And what he shared is that there is a natural empathy that comes for us when we are thinking about people who we are close to, our family and our friends, for example. There is also an empathy that we feel for total strangers, but who have a shared experience. For example, let's talk about the lost opportunity of Meghan for the palace in terms of the shared experience that she brought that would enable them to, as a collective, get so much more empathy from the rest of the world. But also specifically as a third activator of that empathy being physical presence, being around those who that you need to feel empathy for, actually being in the same space as them. And so when we look forward in terms of the work of supporting the Sussexes, supporting the YouTube creators like Baron of Royal Sussex, supporting those who are just on the front lines trying to, even in the minutiae of the day-to-day actions, make the world a better place, remind ourselves of how important it is to be in a place of empathy and to think through those ideas of what does it take, even just to not just say it, but to do it, to live it, to focus on those shared humanity, the shared experiences, and also to just get proximate, to be with people, to be working alongside them when it comes to getting out to vote or to get out to support the people around you, to get out, be local, be with those people, and do that work to make the world a better place, even if it is in the smallest of things. So that is one of the things that we'll pray for today.
Amen. And I think for me, my prayer is, it's one that, and we are on the verge of history here. And what would that mean for the women movement, especially Black women, and what we've been through, and whether or not that, what I will say is that, I think it's there's so much that could come out of this, being able to dream, to not just only say it, but to actually see it, see it right in front of you. Yes, we can. And I think that, we need to think of that. We need to think, the power that, we have with our vote. Because I know many times that, we feel powerless. But there is one place where we can actually make a difference and we could change things. It's with our vote. And it's not something that, we should take for granted. And we should not stay, behind the door or stay in our bed and let it be somebody else's problem. Let them worry about it. Nothing's going to happen for me. It's not true. It's not true. And don't think that, what, your vote won't make a difference. There's many sort of races that have lost, and just 2, 3, 4, 5 votes. So every vote counts. Please vote. And again, I extend my prayer for, the successes camp, the people that who hopefully can continue stay loyal to them and be around them and protect them and tell the truth. And so that's what I pray for this week. And so please taking care of your mental health. Love reign always. God bless you all. If God willing, we'll be together again next week to finish what we started. And hopefully, right after that, we will have our first woman president, which what I pray, because God knows I would love to share that moment with my mother before she leaves this earth. So that's what I pray. It's a special time for me. Thank you all. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. It means a lot. God bless you all. Good day. Bye-bye.